Thank you, everyone. Kindly have a seat to Chicago Music Box. Am I saying that anyway? Chicago Sound Box. Thank you so much for ushering us into the Girls Like Me podcast, the Back to School Bash edition. This is our spot talk. Thank you so much, everyone. If you can take your seats, we are going to get started with the podcast.
Hey, y'all. This is a really powerful and transformational conversation. The women who are here alongside me are absolutely amazing thought leaders, fierce and staunch girls advocates, educators. And so this room should really be packed because I'm telling you, if you are not in this room, you are missing out on a conversation. And it really is a conversation for our young girls as well as parents and educators, because we're going to be talking today about how we nurture the spirit of our girls throughout the school year, how we keep them safe in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities. And so to introduce the powerful women that we have with us today. Okay, so we're going to have the girls introduce each of the guests who are here. We're going to start with Miss Chaz. Who has Miss Chaz?
Okay, so Chad Smith, she's the founder of the Girls in the Hood Foundation. Okay, and then we have the beautiful Dr. Venus Evans Winters. She's a professor, clinical therapist, an author, and the founder of Planet Venus Institutes.
And here today we have Dr. Keisha Roberts Tab.
Give it up for these women. Their titles, those short bios do nothing justice for the work they do. So I'm going to have them kind of talk a little bit more about their work before we go into our conversation.
Hey, everybody. Okay. My name is Chad Smith. I am the founder of Girls in the Hood Foundation. Hood is an acronym for Healthy, Optimistic, Outstanding, and Determined. Our mission is to improve reproductive health outcomes amongst adolescent females residing in urban areas considered hood, and to redefine the negative stereotypes that are placed on girls based on their zip code. We have several programs that help us to amplify our mission. The first one is our Degrees Before Diapers program, where we're providing girls with reproductive health and sexual health education, in addition to post-secondary guidance. We have the She's So Hood Award Show, where we highlight teen girls who are excelling despite their circumstances. We have a hood closet where we invite girls and members of the community to come out and shop for new and gently used clothing at our facility, and that happens every other Friday. We provide girls with hood kits, and that's our effort to combat period poverty in the city, to make sure that each girl is able to experience a period with dignity. We provide them with the free period products and hygiene supplies needed to do so. That's just a little bit about Girls in the Hood Foundation, but one thing to remember about us is that we're here to provide all of these services without judgment. We have a great teen parenting program too, because we don't teach girls that their life is over. We try to provide them with the support so that they can continue to navigate into womanhood. Girls in the Hood Foundation.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like you said, that's just some of the things you do. And some of our girls benefited today with the hood kids. So thank you for that. And to my immediate left is Dr. Venus Winters Evans. She's going to tell you a little bit more about the powerful work that she does as well.
I'm glad that we are speaking because I actually can't see. So this is actually really good. All I have to do is hold this mic. So my name is Dr. Venus Evans Winters. I do go by Dr. V. I'm a licensed school social worker, a licensed clinical social worker, as well as a licensed clinical complex trauma professional and a health and wellness coach. And right now, my youngest client is probably 12 years of age. My oldest client is 73. I see men, women, all genders in my practice, and I work with people from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds. As far as my doctorate, I'm also a professor. So I've actually been a professor longer than I've been a clinician. So I've been a clinician for approximately 16, 17 years, and I've been a professor for approximately 20 years. And I think it's probably at this point safe to say that I actually started most of the conversations that we're having about the state of Black girls in our public school systems. Before, nobody was talking about Black kids. What they were talking about was poor kids, urban kids, or Black students, and they were talking about it from a deficit perspective. Whereas I said, wait a minute, where I come from, right, Black girls are actually in the classroom. Black girls actually stick to education, but at what cost? So even though we're making it out of the classroom, what are we sacrificing? And we're actually sacrificing our mental health, our physical health, as well as our spiritual selves. And so I do want to talk about that as it relates today to our overall mental health, wellness, and feelings of safety and belonging.
This is the place we having this conversation. So thank you. And then I got my soul sister, my girl, all the way to the far left, Dr. Kisha Roberts Tab. Listen, when we get together, it's going to be the Keishas. Okay, go ahead and tell them who you are.
I'm Dr. Kisha Roberts Tab. I'm also a professor. I am the Special Population Program Manager and the first human trafficking specialist for Cook County Courts. Like Dr. V, I started the conversations about Black girl and sex trafficking in the city of Chicago, wanting us to be more involved in the safety, the wellness, and the execution of keeping them out of the streets, keeping them off of those tracks and into classrooms like you speak of. I also am an author, but I am the founder of Girls Night Out, which is one of the things that I am most, being the first trafficking specialist is great for a court system, but being able to be the first person to go on the streets and say, hey, little girl, I can help you, or hey, woman, like her, the oldest person I've ever rescued was 68 years old, and the youngest was 11. And so for me, that's the work that I am most proud of, because we have to show representation when we show service. And sometimes we lend to other nationalities to come in and fix our problems instead of having the people in our community that look like us going out and say, I do understand what you're going through, and I'm willing to walk this journey with you. And so that is what I'm most proud of.
And I'm so proud of all of us on this stage, because I think we all can say that we are all pioneers and trailblazers in our given discipline that we do, our focus on girls. Nobody was talking about stereotypes and stigma and media correlation before girls like me. Everybody wants to be a storyteller today, but that wasn't happening before. Sex trafficking, we weren't even calling it sex trafficking, right? We were using words like prostitution and all these other things, right, child prostitution. And Dr. Venus, you wrote these books a long time ago to tell people how to educate Black girls and how to create a healthy whole school system for girls and policies. And so, and Chaz, again, everybody wants to say the girls who are, excelling, the prim and proper girls, the girls who get these accolades. But what about the girls like me, right? What about girls in the hood who are phenomenal, right? We have great gifts, but we also are faced with poverty and a lot of the other things that limit our possibilities. And we don't get chosen to be a part of these, affiliations, right? Those they don't welcome girls like us and the girls that we serve. And so I'm so grateful for y'all here today. So how this is gonna go is we're gonna have a really quick conversation, the four of us, really quick, about 20 minutes, just to delve into how we can, how educators and adults can create safe spaces and support Black girls. And then our divas are gonna be asking questions and leading us in conversation, and we'll follow their lead. So the first question was back to school season, right? We're all getting free book bags, rushing people to get, all the forms and everything they need filled out to go back to school, right? But what are we sending our girls back to?
That's a good question. So I just got back from recently from West Africa and dropping off my own daughter into college. And so what are we sending our kids back to? Well, anybody who's been watching the news lately, conservatives especially have been doing this big push where they're trying to show the reading scores of students, especially Black students, the reading math scores of our students. And so the first thing we have to do is prepare our young people for that transition back to school. And to be honest, we have to just be upfront. We have to let them know what they're entering. Okay, sometimes these schools and these curriculums weren't meant for them. And right now they're trying to shut down our public schools, and they're trying to separate or segregate girls from these types of activities. They want to defund us. Nobody talked about how they funding our programs. They're not, right? Like, we're doing this right on our own. But second, they don't want to give them the curriculums. But that's when we step up. That's when we step up. So we just have to make sure, one, let's fill our libraries and our classrooms with books and stories and people that look like them, sound like them, that dress like them, and worship like them. Believe it or not, Keisha, that's a direct correlation between what they see, what they hear, what they read, what they learn, and their overall mental health. So the first thing we have to do is we have to protect their overall psyche. We have to protect their psyche. That's different from their brain. We're talking about something that we can't see. We're talking about mental models, because mental models will become a protective factor when the teachers, and I'm not blaming teachers. I know we got some great teachers out there that work really, really hard, but teachers, curriculums, and policies that push them out. Today, most of our girls, especially in CPS, they actually are spending more time outside of the classroom than they are inside of the classroom. So that's when we have to monitor not just what's going on, outside of school, but what's also going on inside of school. And I'm not going to put all this responsibility on the parents. I want to empower our girls to advocate for themselves. And I want those of us around the room who's listening to the show, we also need to learn how to advocate for them. And that starts with literacy, critical gender, racial literacy.
And I know we're live, so technologically, I just want to do a real quick check to make sure we are live. That people, okay, perfect. Y'all know we gotta do that quick check. Dr. Kish, I'm gonna go to you, and then I want you to talk about what girls, when we send them out the door, from the time they leave our door till they get to the steps of the school and back home, what we're sending them to.
So with me having 20 years in the juvenile justice system, one of the things that I am very, very particular about is the rate of cases that we see coming to the court system when school starts. And I do not think so. People will make you believe that the crime is going on when children are unsupervised, right? So they have these statistics that say that crime occurs between 5 and 11 p.m. And that's why we need to have these programs. Well, I'm here to tell you that more girls pick up cases while in school than they do between those hours. And those cases are not usually based on peer-to-peer contact. They're based on contact with security staff, with teachers, with things of that nature. And if that security staff is a police officer which a lot of Chicago police officers, they do work in schools during the day, doing their off shifts. That is now a felony. And so now when we talk about protection, we're talking about what's following them home from school. What are they going to deal with 21 days later when they get that court date that say you have to be in courtroom, so on calendar 56, 57, 62, 37, all of those in 21 days. The problem with that is we have not created a system within our school to de-escalate contact with peer-to-peer contact. So when adults get in the midst of the contact, they have not been trained to de-escalate that contact, and then it escalates the contact further than just the fight or the argument that took place. And I'm sorry, if they was giving out felonies for people being smart, I would be in jail for the rest of my life, because I was one of those girls that had a smart mouth. I was one of those girls that fought, that argued. So if these things was going on when I was in school, I could not be sitting here as Dr. Keisha Roberts Tab. I would be Keisha Roberts 173872 with a number attached to me. And so we have to be more responsible. And so for the young ladies that's in the room, I don't want you to intervene. I want you to observe, because what we do not see is we don't have testimony coming from bystanders. We have testimony coming from other officers, teachers, principals who probably already have a predetermined opinion of that young lady before she even get into that fight. And so if you guys can be more responsible and accountable for each other, and when we see things escalate, being able to go and say, is it really work? Like being able to have these conversations with each other, and, instead of having other people direct that conversation.
Oh, so I have to just give a testimony. 30 years ago, I was 17 years old at Simeon Vocational High School. And I tell this story all the time. We got out of school early. The seniors did, and my little sister was a junior, and she didn't get out early, and we were staggered, but we go home together. So I had to wait for her, right? And waiting at the bus stop, the police officer keeps coming to me to tell me to move from in front of the school, get from in front of the school. Okay, so I go to the candy store down the street. It's only so much you can do, to spend to take up the time till she was coming out. Well, this officer, I guess I wasn't moving fast enough, wasn't responding. And of course, like you said, I don't like to call it smart mouth. I like to say that we were self-advocates for ourselves, right? We spoke up and spoke back. And so I was very aware that I had a voice. And so I used my voice. Now, I won't say that I was the most respectful tone, but I felt powerless, because I feel like I have nowhere to go. I'm waiting for my sister. Like, I'm not causing trouble. Why isn't there a safe space, right? And so it escalated. I wound up being slapped across my face at the hands of a 6'6" officer. He weighed no less than 250 pounds. Then he twisted my hand behind my back, and pushed me into the building where they had the SRO office. So the police officers had their office. My mother came to the school trying to get in the building, and they was like, "You can't come in here. She's 17. So I was immediately an adult, right? And my mother couldn't intervene on my behalf. And I had to go back to see that police officer every single day, although the case was dismissed and everything. And he would try to talk to me. But at this point, I am scarred. I have PTSD just looking at you every day. I have to come into this building. And this is what our girls are going to. The discipline, right? I spent 10 days suspended in one school year. That's not all the school year, but one school year, which meant that I missed so much work, so many opportunities. I missed the whole driver's ed piece, right? We don't talk about the disproportionate amount of times that girls are disciplined for the very same infractions that a white girl is simply encouraged from, right? Coached through or redirected through. We're seeing automatically a suspension, detention, expulsion, and arrest. So thank you for that, because we are sending our girls into schools where Chicago police, and I'm saying that because we're in Chicago police are the officers, but the whole CPD has a DOJ has declared that they need a consent decree, which states that 90% of the time they are using excessive force and that they are mistrained, right? But we're going to send our kids right into that system. And so, yes, back to school, huh?
Yeah, we need. There's some conversations. Like, yeah, y'all spin the truth.
It's
Y'all
front porch
spin the truth.
politics.
Spitting the truth. One of my concerns is that we're sending girls to school, to sexually charged schools, without the education, right? Without the sexual health education that they need to just be aware. I think we do a great job with young girls, and when they, young girls like, oh, you're so pretty. This is this, when we're telling them, like, about their body and female anatomy, and no one should touch you here and all of that stuff. But then the conversation stops as they start getting older, and then we start saying that they fast, when they have these same questions about their body and things like that. So I think that and this is before they even get to the school, that the village, us, the parents, and then, us, we need to make sure that the girls have adequate, like, comprehensive reproductive health and sexual health education. Because if we're honest, like, a lot of these schools, they're not getting in there. That sex ed curriculum piece is trash. And so that's up to us to fill in that blank. Also, in the schools that I've seen, we have a lot of people who are taking advantage of our girls in the school sexually, adults, just with the inappropriate words, the inappropriate language, the way that you deal. Sometimes you may go up there and you're like, what am I even looking at here? When an adult male and some of our girls, and, that needs to be looked at a lot. And I would like to see just more, maybe some ambassadors, community ambassadors, walking these girls from home to school. So we're over in the Grand Crossing community, and you see these sweetie pies going past, and they, but you also see the elements, and you got to go past this and go past that. I got some green for sale, and this, and all this stuff that you have to go past before you even get to the school. So then girls going to school, they may have attitudes and things like that walking in the door. But we know what's going to happen. You go in with an attitude, So I just would like to see us taking, better care of our girls. Just at our organization, we've come across maybe 4 girls in the past couple of weeks, 6th and 7th grade, who are pregnant. And, every time you turn on something, it's like, oh, teen pregnancy is down, well, not where I'm now. No. So I just advise us to dig deeper. Don't just take things at face value. Let me see the zip codes where teen pregnancy is down, and things. And so I just want to see us taking, better care of our girls before they even get to the school. But we have to just be advocates for them once they're in there. Another thing is that we see is that when girls are on their period, experiencing their period, right, they may not have the proper supplies. So they may be running to the bathroom, they may be using tissue and all of these things, which cause leakage. And so they may be sitting there, the teacher's saying, get up and do this and do that, but they can't. Because they're embarrassed. They don't want anyone to see them. But then now they have to go to the principal office. So now they're accruing detentions, and all these consequences was really a conversation could just be had. So if they had safe people in the school that they can talk to, and don't tell me like going to the nurse, because a lot of time it's only one nurse and she only there on Mondays and Fridays. What do they do in between time? So let's take better care of our girls. Yeah.
She brought up a good point around over-sexualized schools, hypersexualized schools. The walk to school, the walk home from school is hypersexualized, and not just for sex, for exploitation. So when you think about a young person walking to school, bus stops, we talk about corners. Just all you hear is the girls on the corners. That's not where sex is being sold. Sex is being sold at bus stops, because no one's going to stop. No police or anyone's going to pay any attention to a young lady that's in a uniform or looks as if she's attending school. However, she's never got on the bus. She's looking for the passing of cars and things of that nature. And when that element exists in our neighborhood, so do the oppressors. And so you have those individuals that know this is a high time. Trafficking takes place. The height of trafficking takes place between the hours of 11 p.m. and 10 a.m. So we're thinking, when you think about that time when you're getting on the bus, if you're going to a school on the north side, you're at the bus stop at 6:15 in the morning. You're at 95th in the Dan Ryan at 6:15 in the morning, that is a huge track in the city of Chicago, a huge track. And sex is sold when individuals who buy sex is present. So it's sold during those times, those specifically industrial times. So men take the train to work. Men man the train in industrial areas. Honestly, let's just be honest. In industrial areas, when traffic is happening around areas in which steel mills exist, car plants exist. All of these things, we do not pay attention to where our children are traveling. And so when we are instructing our children around how they get to school, they need to avoid those areas, because those are areas when recruitment, advertising, and exploitation is constantly taking place 7 days a week.
And we need to go deeper into that, because I think that a lot of times we stereotype girls and stigmatize girls so that there's a certain girl who we should be looking at, who we think is the profile, fits the profile, right? But as you just said, this girl, you may do everything for your child. She got school uniform, she got everything, but she's going out that door and you don't know who is outside watching, who's outside taking note. And I try to tell these girls too, like, I don't think we're preparing girls for the fact that they do want to feel pretty. They do want somebody that they do want to be affirmed. You can't just say go outside and don't listen to somebody. They starving for attention. They starving to be edified. So what are the tools that we're giving them to say, this is how we can edify you. This is how we can affirm you. So when Mr. Ray come or whoever, right? Because I'm telling you, even these predators don't look like, there's no predator look.
And
Predators can be
always see the
college, right?
predators
They can be
because it's
19.
online.
Yeah.
And it's online. They can be teachers. They're online.
Coaches.
So another thing, 9 out of the 10 cases in which I have assessed, most of them, they met their turnout, which is the person that introduced them to exploitation, online. Not in a situation where I was, Mr. the white van came and that's not what's happening at all. And so another thing that I want to piggyback, you said we want to feel attractive. We have to understand, as Black women, we are the symbol of beauty now in every platform. So those days of blue-eyed, blonde head, skinny, up, down is not the symbol of beauty anymore. When you look at every beauty platform, all Black women hold those titles. So now we have changed the element of beauty. And so it's not just the people that look like us that's attracted to us. It's the people that always downed us that are also attracted to us in these areas. And so one of the things you talked about, some tools, the grooming process is not about how you look. Grooming process is about the vulnerabilities in which you have displayed. So those vulnerabilities look like neediness, low self-esteem, pretending to have self-esteem, too much time on your hands, economic vulnerabilities, not being able to provide your needs, not having a sustainable support system, all of those things. And so for the young ladies, please open your ears when I tell you the only way that people are able to identify those vulnerabilities is because we put them out there on social media. We talk too much. We tell too much. We share too much about what it is that we need. Find somebody that you can trust and allow them to make those connections for you. Stop crying out over social media, because the person that's listening is not there to help.
So I do want to add to that. So basically everything that we've just talked about, they can fall under 3 categories. 1, school push out. So school to criminalization pathways. Another one is the adultification of Black girls. And another one too, we're talking about the sexual abuse to criminalization or trafficking pipeline. And I wanted to add, so keep in mind, we're talking about these protections in schools and policies and curriculums and how do we teach and how do we protect their overall mental health. This is not some 30-year-old dirty man like lurking in the background. We're talking about this 6th and 7th grader. I guarantee you she's pregnant by somebody that's probably 5 years older than her. So 15, 16 years of age. We're talking about Black girls who are coming in contact with guys. They're 14, 15. And so you got 19, 20-year-old men who are basically trafficking these girls. They're grooming them. And you're right, they can find them. Now, I would say this. I know it's really difficult to admit this because we're actually, the people who we're criticizing are the people who we're leaning on. Yep. So we're just going to pretend like that teacher report about sexual abuse in the public school system didn't come out in that
decade. Over a decade.
And hardly anybody was charged with anything but sent to counseling. So now we're talking about disparities in the discipline and punishment of Black girls. And it's hard for us to have that conversation. So this one, we need to we are grooming our girls to be overly disciplined. Like I could stand it. I'm a soldier. I can take that. So whether we're talking about a smart mouth, I did have a smart ass mouth. I just want you to know that. Okay. So all of my names on the board, checks and suspensions. Okay. And I like the Keisha said she had one fight. I was like, damn, I can't even count the fight.
I said one fight that got me 10 days.
They got the 10
My
days.
mama will tell you different. She had to be at the school almost every week, and that's not
And
exaggeration.
but you labeled that too as your mama taught you to advocate for yourself. Your mama also had to have this conversation with state officials in Nevada. Your mama also taught you, nope, I told you to stay there and wait on your sister. So you had to decide if you was gonna get your ass beat by your mama or that police officer. And none of us here advocate for corporal punishment anymore. We just don't. But we're just saying how we were raised. That does spill over into how we cope and how we deal with conflict at school. Because I'm telling you now, if my cousin in a fight, one fight, all fight, right? So now how do school policies, look at our mama, don't be going, right? But how do school policies account for Black girl culture? That's all we're asking. But if you have Karen or Becky in front of that classroom and she doesn't understand how Keisha and Venus have been socialized and culturated, because we got to make it from that house to that bus stop to the school by any means necessary, because that's what we were taught. Now, are we going to accept that Karen or Becky is going to try to deculturalize us and take all of that tenacity out of us? All of that tenacity, what our sorority call fortitude, they're going to try to school it out of us to survive in their environment. And what's the chances of us even making it in their environment? We have to survive this environment.
And I need to highlight and amplify this, because sometimes it's not Karen and Becky. Sometimes it's Dr. Valerie. Sometimes it's they look just like those girls, and except they got permed hair and they got a St. John suit on, and they so full of respectability that as soon as our girls come in, as they are full of their flavor, bringing who they are to the table, we want to tell them that they're not enough, and so they discipline now by how they look, because their hair is not coiffed right. They want to be disciplined because they don't have, their shirt may be showing some skin, a belly or whatever. But we don't say that when Sasha and Malia taking pictures with their stomachs out, right? And so it makes our girls feel that they're less than.
Yeah, so we're being policed. Yeah, we're being policed by some of the older women too, or women in our own communities, and that's because they want us to try to fit in. And all of us have been to these classes of, oh well, if you just talk this way, and if you style your hair this way, and if you walk this way, and if that wasn't that short, I'm sitting here, I'm watching this sister dress. I like your legs, by the way, and all I keep thinking is, dang, that you would have been put out the classroom. You would have been judged before you could even open your mouth and say what you're doing for everybody up here. In our hair, because of our hair. So we.
One of our girls this summer, I loved every day she came with her hair just Black girl hair. She wasn't worrying about brushing it every 5 minutes. Is it in place? Be who you are. Because when they get to school, then it said, oh, your hair ain't combed. You're not, all of the different things that's judgment that make you shrink and feel like I need to be all these different things. I need to buy all of this. I need to dress like this. Always trying to climb and attain something instead of being who we are and celebrating who we are.
That's because we're not fighting the right enemies. That's half the problem.
You just literally spoke to it. If the job is to take our culture from us, the only representation we get to see is those who have been stripped. Right. And so now that this is what's obtainable, enough of us don't show up looking this way. And so now there's no representation on how we can be authentically Black and successful. But it's stripped.
And it's a distraction. I remember, if you recall last summer, right? We had the whole bonnet debate. The whole bonnet. So I guarantee you now how many girls are going to get suspended before they even get in the school door because of a bonnet. I can tell you that right now. and no matter where you stand on that bonnet, right? This is because we don't want to have real conversations about the sexual abuse to prison pipeline, right? So we're talking about these groomings and adultification of Black girls. Some of this is all related to us policing them instead of us policing the people that are harming them. Ooh. And so immediately I put on my Facebook page, I said, well, y'all talking about bonnets. Can I curse? While y'all talking
Yes,
about bonds
ma'am.
and shit, we're going to ignore the fact that over 85% of Black women are survivors of sexual abuse and exploitation. We're going to ignore that almost 35% of Black girls report never reporting their sexual abuse. So now we're almost at 100%. 3%, see, 3% report that they've been abused sexually or molested. You see what I'm saying? Or assaulted. And so all of these, whether we're talking about issues around self-esteem, grooming, how we fight, nobody ever asked us why we were fighting.
Why? We just had this conversation. Like, why am I angry? Why am I feeling so powerless? Why am I the depression or the anger you see? Why don't you know that that's despair? Why don't you see that that is because, as you said, the entire environment that I have to navigate by the time I get to you, I had to tell, like, dude, leave me alone. Stop. Like, I had to tell five dudes on my way to school, none of them my age. I have to battle that. Then I got to battle. Who knows? You wake up in the morning, you running late, your mama telling you this, that, you already on edge. We can keep going about the problems, but I want us to get the voices of the girls. So now we're going to do a part 2, and I'm going to do a time check really quickly, just so we know how much time we have left for this conversation. It's 1:04. Okay, we have 20 more minutes to go for this conversation. And so our girls have some questions that they want us to ask, or ask of each other, actually. And so we'll respond to their questions. Say your name before you ask your question, and then go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, I'm Jada. And my question is, how do positive affirmations influence your self-confidence and self-esteem?
Okay. I like that one. So one thing that I will say, and I'm gonna keep it on the positive side, then I'm gonna get on the real side. Okay, so because I'm afraid too of toxic positivity. By the way, that's my new thing I'm afraid of. Right? When you got all of us here, we've been raised to tell it like it is, but now all of a sudden we want to politics of respectability. Right? But self affirmations actually work. Again, I can't go into. By the way, I'm also a hypnotherapist, so I can hypnotize people as well. And so what I will say is positive affirmations, anything positive that's coming into your mind, what you hear and what you see, it actually becomes a part of who you are, even at a subconscious level where you can't see it. So you do want to say something positive. You have beautiful eyes. So you can look in the mirror and say, I have beautiful eyes because Dr. V said so. I love how you styled your hair. I'm going to go out in the car and try that on my own hair today. How about that? So you have beautiful hair. And I love your dimples. I have great dimples. I am smart. I love my eyes, right? My body is strong. I know how to stand on my own, right? Those positive affirmations. And you can even like download on apps positive affirmations. So this is really, really interesting. Okay. But I love to use this analogy in my practice. People don't understand. They think, oh my God, this is just so stupid. Talking about, I love my hips, right? I think my stomach is tight. I think I'm fine just the way that I am, right? These are things too that it feels so uncomfortable for Black women that even I joke about it. It feels uncomfortable to like affirm ourselves, but these things work. So most of us, all of us grew up in a culture where pornography was bad. Most of us know or have learned that we just don't want to flood our brains with pornography, and you definitely don't want to watch pornography or any overly sexual content at a young age. Well, it's a reason for that. We could talk. You and I definitely could talk about the correlations of what happens when you start watching pornography too young, or if you watch it too much. And you can be exploited, or you can become an abuser. You can become aggressive, etc. Right? Not have sexual boundaries, etc. So just flip it. So if you flood yourself at an early age and you flood yourself often, constantly with positive messages and images, that's also going to sink in. That's going to sink in, right? And so you can just think of it that way. Like, okay, well, I can see how anything bad for me will fit, but what about good things for me? Now, with that said, we also have an issue, and it's related to social media, and this is why we need programs and projects like Girls Like Me. Y'all, some of the stuff y'all seeing on social media is not mental health intervention. Is not effective. Mental health can be fun, it can be cute. But mental health counseling, therapy, clinical work, it is hard work. It is hard work. It takes time, it takes commitment. It's like going to school with yourself. Right? You might actually be reading a book by Maya Angelou, but you might be studying your grandmother. right? You might be talking about socioeconomic or economic differences in your neighborhood, but you also may be meditating at night. It's not as easy as people make it seem. And the reason why it's like that on social media is because you have a lot of white people who have co-opted indigenous ways of healing ourselves. And so it looks sterile. But trust me, real mental health work is not that sterile. It's not that clean. It's not that linear. It's a back and forth. Okay? So yes, self-affirmations work. Affirmations work.
Gonna also say I'm so proud that every day these girls, when they come to camp in the morning, the first thing they do is affirmations. They know that. So by the time they finish, they have a journal full of affirmations. So you will never have a day when you can't think of an affirmation that is just for you. And so that's a part of our day. And people think, oh well, they getting paid to do affirmation. Yes, and meditate, because we teaching them that it's not about exhaustion. It's about soul, purpose, and filling your soul. So I'm glad you asked that question, Jada. They know getting. Jada didn't come this summer. Jada is on our host. She does our garden. She takes care of every weekend. But she had a lot of high school preparation. But the rest of them, they had journals and affirmations every single day, meditation. All right, who got the next question?
Okay, I'm Carly, and my question is, what are your thoughts on establishing healthy boundaries in relationships, both with peers and adults, and how does communication play a role in maintaining these strong connections?
Say it again, Carly.
Okay. What are your thoughts on establishing healthy boundaries in relationships, both with peers and adults, and how does communication play a role in maintaining these strong connections?
Do it now while you young. Yes, yes. Now is the time to learn how to set the boundaries. But first, you got to be self-aware. So, paying attention to yourself and just being honest of things that you like and you don't like. And it's okay. Like, if you don't like something, it's perfectly fine. Don't think you being team too much or anything like that. And then once you know what you like and don't like, then enforce it. And enforce it with passion. I'm telling you, you don't want to be I ain't gonna say my age, but I'm older than you. Learning that skill. Like, learn it now and just know that your wants and your needs and everything is important, just as important as anybody else. Sometimes we be bending over backwards trying to respect somebody else's boundaries, or we at your age you find yourself bending and twisting yourself trying to fit in and to accommodate people, and sometimes you lose yourself. But you are just as important as the people that you admire and that the popular people and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, learn it now and force it now. So as you get older, because the older you get, the more people get on your nerves. So you're gonna need that.
And I'm also add with boundaries. I have to tell people this all the time. People get upset that people encroach upon their boundaries. And it's not, you don't be upset because I asked you for something that you don't want to do. Your response should just be, I can't do that at this time. Then you don't have to have resentment for nobody's request. You don't have to be mad. They calling me, they doing this. Set your own boundaries. Know what you will and won't do, what you can and what you don't want to tolerate. And then the decision is yours. It's not somebody else's. If somebody's asking you to do something or be something or whatever, you set the boundary and they say, no, but I really did want to do that. I really need you. No, I can't. No, I can't is a simple answer. And I also want you all to know that your boundaries are effective for everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean your mama, your daddy, your grandmama, your teachers, your whoever, your boundaries. Now, I'm not going to say that people won't, because they are adults, that they won't take executive decisions and say, well, I know you don't want to, but you have to. But voicing your boundaries, voicing what you want and what you don't want, and in a way that don't, we not with corporal punishment, but don't encourage your mama to backhand you. You want to say things in a way, right? You want to say, my mother used to say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I can say anything to my mother, but I couldn't be disrespectful or have a tone or aggressive, right? So I really am tired today. I've been doing XYZ, and I really would love to stay home and do XYZ. Now, your mama made me like, no, you're going to get up and go anyway, but learning to assert your voice, right? And we want parents and educators and adults to hear our girls when they're telling us how they feel, when they're telling us that they're tired, when they're telling us that they're not comfortable doing something. When they're voicing these things, we have to then step back and say, what's more important, my child's wellness or whatever this thing is that I want them to do, right? And sometimes it is going to be ice cream and vegetables, and you are going to say, yeah, I know you want the ice cream, but you're getting the vegetable, right? But we have to also be listening and be flexible to hearing their voices.
This is probably not the most popular answer to boundaries, but in order to be able to sustain boundaries, you first have to check your motives. You have to figure out, why do you feel like you should do the things that you don't want to do, and what are you looking for in return? And in order to be able to say that I'm going to set these boundaries, you have to be accountable to your motives. So if your motives is for people to like you, your boundaries are always going to be stretched. But when you look at why the yes is so frequent and why you're uncomfortable when in your no, then you'll be more comfortable saying, these are my boundaries and I won't waver in them. Yes. And so sometimes, specifically as adolescent girls, we want to be liked, right? And so sometimes we find ourselves in peer groups and friend groups where we are being taken advantage of. And we know this. We know, and I'm just going to keep it a buck. We the flunky of the group, you know? So anytime somebody to send off, anytime somebody y'all got to send off in y'all group, every time something wants to be done, you go to the person that you know is not going to say no because they want to remain in this friend group. But clearly this friend group is not the most, healthy group for you. You don't have the most healthy position in this group. And so if you see someone taking advantage of you, but you're saying yes so that you can remain in this group, you got to check your motives as to, why do I even want to be friends with girls that will take advantage of me? And what is it about me that I don't value enough to say that this is not the right setting for me and I can't bloom here?
That also looks like being around people who don't make you feel good about yourself, who make fun of you, who humiliate you, who put you in positions where you're not your best self. They don't bring out the best in you. And I'm so glad you said that, because it is true. Even I want them to have real life experience, like real life examples when we're talking, so they can connect. Because yes, you can. Yes, you get the mic. Nope.
So sometimes, now keep in mind that you just gave an example of parents, for example. Our mothers and our fathers, the older I get, I start giving mothers especially grace. Because, you know, when you're young, you see your mother as, please God, yes, do. I hope she's watching. But as you get older, when you're young, you see your mother's like all that, right? Then as you start getting older, and I mean really young in the Black family, 5, 6, you're like, she just mean. But then as I got older, and the more that I knew and the more that I experienced as a woman, I realized that, oh my goodness, my mother, my grandmother, they had their own girlhood experience. They had their own teenage experience. They had their own experiences with fucked up men and relationships. You see what I'm saying? And so that's passed on. We call that intergenerational trauma. Okay, intergenerational trauma and historical trauma. Like, keep in mind, many of our families and parents have survived the transatlantic slave trade, sharecropping, Jim Crow lynching, and terrorism right here in our own neighborhood. Okay, because I don't want to just put this on the Black family. And so one good example I want to give, now that I set that backdrop, I had to teach my daughter and my niece, when I was living here on the south side on 61st and Woods, the girls getting our hair did, was a whole public affair. They would put us on the front porch, and we would be sitting in between somebody's legs, right? Our mama's legs, our auntie's legs, our play auntie legs, our play big sister legs, right? And we were getting our hair did. And it hurt. Let's be clear. Sometimes it burnt. I mean, if you was lucky enough, you had somebody who was a skilled hair person doing your hair doer, braider, right? French braider. That's what we used to call them, French braids, putting the beads on. But you didn't care. You really wanted to look cute. And then I realized that my mother or somebody's mother, I was their palette. They was making art. We represented the family. We didn't outsource our hair back then. Everything took place in that hot ass front porch, in front of everybody. Meanwhile, the boys running around having fun, the girls playing double dutch. You have done, you can't look like it hurt, you wincing. But then I realized when I was doing my own daughter's hair, my niece's hair, she was the oldest. She would just be crying. I'm thinking, I'm doing a good job. Girl, don't worry. You're going to get to this. You're going to be fine, child. You know, get your little fan or something. You're going to be fine. Pop on the comb. Because that's what they do. They say, pop us if we move too much. You messing up their art. And they want to get it done. And it took like 4 hours, okay, in the hot sun. But then when my daughter came too, I started thinking, damn, my niece never told me. She told me when she was older, auntie, that used to hurt. There's a connection. We are literally socializing and training our daughters to sit in the pain. So as young as 5, I told my daughter, if anybody hurts you, if anything makes you feel uncomfortable, even if it's me, you say, stop, no, that hurts. So I'm not going to go too far into other examples, but what I want you to look up, all of you all, look up types of boundaries. Because that one example, and every grown woman here know what I'm talking about, that can be a part of your sexual boundaries, your relationship boundaries, your workplace boundaries, but we were taught to sit. Now, keep in mind what my mother had to endure, not just getting her hair done, then what my grandmama had to endure. So they teaching us to sit and take that pain for a reason. But what's the one thing they told us? Don't let anybody in your head. That was the biggest lesson they gave us. What did Malcolm X say? Only a fool will send their children to be taught by the hands of the enemy. Don't let anybody in your head. So look up the different type of boundaries. Okay, Google it. Different types of boundaries.
All right, my name is Bella, and my question is, what are some strategies to help you overcome self-doubt and fear of failure?
Repeat it, Bella.
Oh, okay. What are some strategies to help you overcome self-doubt and fear of failure?
So I think Girls Like Me project is, I'm gonna just give us our due. I think that's what we teach you all, Bella. I think the things that we've been teaching you, your affirmations, your meditation, how to center yourself. So as Dr. Kisha talked about your motives and knowing how am I feeling right now? What do I want to feel like, right? And having that vision for yourself of what the life you want to be, how you want to feel, how you want to give to the world, right? Having that for yourself before you even go out into the world, arming yourself with that armor of the affirmations, right? And I think the last part of your question was failure. I think this is how you first of all, failure is, I don't like the word failure because there is no such thing as failure. Like failure is to not try. Failure is to not even make any attempts. Failure is to have a vision of someone else's idea of what it is for you to be a success. For me, there is no such thing as failure. You try, you learn, you do something new, or you do something better. There's no failure. And the failure is a word that's used to keep us always reaching for something else, reaching to feel like we need something else to enhance us. We need somebody else to enhance us. And when we get rid of the concept of failure, then we say that we are enough, we're good enough, and we're a success. I am good enough just as I am. Y'all wanna add?
Well, we talked about this too Wednesday. I think that I think we need to normalize not always getting it right. Because when we get it wrong, it gives us an opportunity to do it again and do it better. And as long as you're learning from things that you did not do your best at, you'll always win. And so this idea and self-doubt, first, I would like us to stop to change the language and the narrative in which we operate our success in, right? So self-doubt could be just being conscious of what we're doing, right? And so when we say self-doubt, it gives a negative connotation to something that is really, I want to be self-doubtful when I'm spending my money. I want to know, I want to make sure that this is the best investment. And so is that negative or is that smart? And so changing the way that is human. And so changing the way that we speak about how we navigate life is really what we need to change, not what happens, because things happen. It's what you do after it happens. It's what you respond to what happened, because what we call failures is out of our control, right? So if the market crash, You didn't really have any control over that. But in the eyes of the economists, oh, you're a failure. Now your business went under, but it was out of your control. But what you can do is change the narrative and say, this failure turns into my second chance. And so now we're looking at how we navigate these things a lot differently than something that happened to us, but what we're learning from these things.
I would suggest that's just having an attitude. So I have a 23-year-old son and I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I've worked with girls all over the country and internationally. So what I would say is have an attitude of I can't fail. I can't fail. Now you can't overcharge that card, but have an attitude of I can't fail, I won't fail. So how does that happen? Put positive people around you. I get on that road when Keisha calls me. I get on that road because I know what she's doing. And no matter how stupid I look on Instagram, I still don't know how to freaking go live, but I just keep trying it because I know that there are people who are counting on me, who are more important than me, who are committed to the work. And you never know who's watching you, by the way. You never know. I've been to the White House. I've testified before the Department of Justice. I've served as an expert witness on trafficking for the Department of Justice. And now I'll be doing trainings for, these same conversations. I'm under a lot of NDAs, as you could imagine. But nonetheless, put yourself around other people who believe in you. Also put yourself around other people who are doing the work. It's going to feel lonely. But when you're lonely, you can only think of yourself as a failure. Because if you're around other people too who are trying to get it and they keep pulling themselves back up, I think about my grandmama. I'm like, my grandma didn't have all this fancy education, degrees and letters, but yet she was able to build a family and build a house from almost nothing. I don't like to say we came from nothing, hell, because we came from, we the first man and woman. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And so put yourself around positive people, put yourself around other people who want to achieve. And when I say positive people who are on your team, and I'm gonna give this to the audience too, the adults. This is for free.com. Okay, y'all. Because I know my coaching clients, like, she giving out everything for free over there. I would say, know your team. Know your team. Okay. Keisha, know your team. I'm gonna just say Michael Jordan, because we're here on the South Side, the Bulls, whether you're a fan or not, right? Everybody knows who their starting five is. You have your starting five. So you're just talking about somebody like Michael Jordan or whomever, right? Whatever basketball player, people like Kobe Bryant, they know who they starting five is. That starting five wants them to shine. They want them to shine so they can bring home the trophy for the entire team. Then you have your bench. Now, your bench players, those are the people who let you rest. I know when Keisha needs a rest. I'm like, Keisha might need a rest. Let me go up here and do this thing. You know what I'm saying? Right? So they are the people that if you need to rest or if you injured, they can give you time off, but you still can win. The team can win, right? And then you're going to have your fans. I had to learn this the hard way, y'all. Because people will come in your inbox, they will email you, they will text you, they will DM you. Man, y'all wasting my damn time. Are y'all trying to help me win? Are y'all trying to help us bring home the trophy? Right? Or are you just a fan? Because some people, and trust me, some of your family members are just fans. They're fans, and that's okay. They could cheer for you from afar. You don't have to bring them on the inside. They can't help you. They can't help you shoot that hoop. They can't help you get that extra point. They're not gonna help you with your dribble. They just there to cheer you on. So just know the difference.
Woo! My starting five. What's the over there? Gotta give my shouts out for real, because this wouldn't even be taking place, because that's very real about a team. And Dr. Kisha and I talk about this all the time. And Chaz, I'm sure you know, and I'm just a segue to this work that we do for you all is it has to be selfless so much of the time, that the dreams we have for ourselves, we don't always get to focus on those dreams. And a lot of times we just have a vision. We just know what we were assigned. Like, I didn't ask to do this work. I would rather be working on documentaries, films, television, living in LA. I promise you. But every time I even think about it, God is like, I didn't tell you to do that. That's not what your assignment. Do this. And so to have those people come alongside you and support that vision, you don't fail because those people are there, and they hard to come by. And it takes a while to get that rhythm because, as you say, some people just coming to see the game. They coming to see the game. They coming to be in the VIP seats. They coming to get all the perks that come at the game, right? But they ain't trying to stick around and do the work and build the team. You talk about that. You gotta build that team, build that teamwork. I just had to get on that because your sisterhood and your friends are gonna keep you from feeling like a failure. They're gonna be the team that she's talking about. All right, next question. I'm sorry.
Okay, so my name is Taylor. My question was, how did you Black women, how did y'all get to where y'all are today? What dreams and what actions did y'all take to get to where y'all are?
This ain't even where I wanted to be. It's not where I thought I would be. It just was, as y'all be saying, life was lifing. Like, different circumstances happened in my life that, has brought me here. But now when I look back, I'm like, oh, okay. So you was training me to, to get to this point. Yeah. But I would say just with anything that you're gonna do, like once you make up your mind that this is this is what I'm gonna do, like you said, I feel like I'm on an assignment. So I had to say, okay, this is it. Because every time I try something else, it don't work, And so I'm like, I started off with, I'm gonna give myself a year, and if it don't work in that year, then that's it. I'm about to go back to corporate America and do something. And that year came so fast, and I was probably had maybe 5% progress from when I started. So I'm like, I'm gonna give myself another year. And it just kept going that way. But really what keeps me going is y'all. Like we've all been in your shoes. I wish that it was the Girls in the Hood Foundation when I was coming up. And so that's kind of, that keep me going, like you all, because believe it's no accolades, it's no awards, it's no damn sure ain't no money in this life, in this these nonprofit streets. So yeah, it's y'all. And I have a daughter myself. She's about to go away to school and things like that. So, so I think about her, I think about y'all, and that keeps me going. But really, just not giving up on myself and not giving up on the girls, because we're just Black women dealing with our own traumas and things, fighting demons every day to, on our journey, just like y'all, and we got a little age on y'all, so we got more demons, to fight. And so just being able to get up, do that every day, and it's not easy, but I believe in myself. I believe in the work. I know what y'all need, and I know the people who trying not to give y'all what y'all need, y'all might can't fight the way I can fight, so I'm gonna be out here. So that's my push. Yeah, my push.
I don't know. I don't know how I got here. I just knew that growing up, I grew up in what other people may look at like the worst of the worst, but I didn't see it that way. I grew up with a addicted mother. My father had a stroke and was out of the house, and grandparents was helping. But what I gained from that, I learned the strength of a village. I learned that my grandmother went to bed at about 1 o'clock because she had to iron all our clothes and make sure everything that was ready for all of us the next morning, because our parents was out doing whatever. I watched my father volunteer at my school during the day and then leave there and go to work and work from 3 to 11. And so it taught me that to whom much is given, much is expected. And I knew that so many people had given, so many people that was not responsible for giving, with the exception of my father, gave so that I could be. And so I always took that with me. And so when I saw young women, I always felt like it was my responsibility to give some of the knowledge that I had gathered from all of these wise women and men in my life that did not have to be there. It's one thing to have to be there. My mother was supposed to be there. That was her job. That was her only job. Take care of these kids. She didn't do that. If fuck them kids was a person, that was her. However, it was a lot of people that said, I'm not going to allow you to fall. I'm going to be there. And when I fell, it was a lot of people that picked me up and said, it's okay. And they fixed my crown, they dusted me off, and they sent me about my way. And all I wanted to be was that person. I never thought about a doctorate. I never thought about being doctor, anybody. I wanted to do hair because I was good at it. I could dance, I could footwork. That's what I wanted to do. However, God saw something better for me, and everything that I have gotten or gained through life, it has never been something that I applied for. God has always just dropped it. And when it happens that way, when God drops something in your pathway and you're walking into something, you know that that's where you're supposed to be. You don't have to doubt it. When you talk about self-doubt do not exist in blessings. So when you're blessed with something, there's no doubt about it, because when God give it to you, he's the only person that can take it away. There is not a man on this earth strong enough to take what God has given. And so oftentimes I'm the only Black woman in the room. I'm the only girl from the projects in the room. I'm the youngest person in the room, and I'm speaking on your behalf. And because I'm speaking on the behalf of Black girls, they try to silence my voice. But I always remember that I'm standing on strong shoulders, and a lot of people sacrifice so that I can speak on your behalf, and they cannot silence my ancestors, because it's been proven. We've been proven. We're solid. We're survivors. We are way makers. We are inventors. We are the creators. We are the influencers. They established that long before they got on this pasture. And as long as that's been established, the way has been made for us to walk into what they've already planted. We eat the fruits of their labor. And when you know that, there's nothing that anybody could tell you to silence you. Keep your voice and listen. Tap into your discernment. If you don't know what discernment is that voice that voice when God tells you something before it happens. It's not psychic, it's not man of Cleo. It's that little itch that say you should not go there.
Here in your gut.
It's that little thing when that guy is sitting here that say this don't feel right here. That's what you got to tap into.
Don't keep going down the street. Turn down. Go this way.
That's discernment. But guess what discernment also tells you? It also tells you when something is right. And it feel good, and you don't have to question it, and there's no doubt about it. When there's no doubt about it, it's purposeful. As long as you're walking in purpose, you cannot get it wrong.
That was a sermon. I'm still processing discernment. Somebody was another colleague said, "Wow, Venus, how you get here so fast and so far, and the respect." And I said, "I don't know." She said, "Discernment." She's like, "A discernment." And look that word up. That's a very interesting word, discernment. And so you're right. So basically, I'll tell you all a little specifics. So I'm a schoolgirl, and every time somebody tried to take that away from me, I fought for it. Even when I got tired, because you get to a point you get tired of going to school. And I think for me that was around middle school. I started skipping school. Now my parents are watching. I started skipping school, just trying to take a day or two here. And that's when I realized now what we would call mental health breaks. So I give my kids, and I even give my students, I'm like, just take 2 to 3 days off. And that's when you're just tired. And I want us to give Black girls permission to rest. Because even when you hear us talking about what we're doing, we got 3, 4, 5, 10 jobs. We're raising our own kids. We're taking care of other people's kids. We're helping take care of, the elderly. We're funding all these other, civic organizations. And I think we're passing along to our girls, because I hear what you all are doing. You're in extracurricular activities, after school programs, athletics, and you're trying to, volunteer, and you have to get good grades, because Black people still believe in good grades, like no matter what they say about us, we believe in good grades, right? And so I just want to give y'all permission to rest. So how did I get here? As someone who studies the culture of psychology, it's the term that I like to use. It's called Black girls resilience. And it doesn't mean that we take a beat down. It just means that we use our cultural ways of knowing, our gender and cultural ways of knowing, to survive and navigate spaces. And then once we're in those spaces, we figure out how to change and transform those systems in those places. And so as a schoolgirl, I can tell y'all now, I like books. And I'll be honest with y'all, because this is not popular. For me, Pan-Africanism, it saved me, because I can't see myself, like Keisha said, I can't see myself as a failure. I can't doubt, I can't doubt myself, but I also can't give myself all the credit, right? I can't give myself all the credit. I used to get in trouble for reading too much. And you know what else I used to fight? You can try to block me from going to school if you want to. We're gonna have a great fight. And I might get suspended, but I'm gonna fight to get back in school. I'm gonna make my case why I should be back in school. You see what I'm saying? And things are changing. All of this is like not y'all fault either. That's why we can't say success and failure anymore. Y'all have whole governments trying to block y'all dreams. Whole governments. I come from a neighborhood where knock rules was in place. They told me the parents don't let the kids sleep. We couldn't sleep because they was breaking down our doors with barriers. The police at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, raids. Didn't care if they ran up in the wrong house or not. It could be your neighbor's house, you know. But books, reading, school saved my life. It was something about school. Now, keep in mind, most of us here over the age of 40, our parents never thought that the school itself was our only way of learning, right? So we know, I'm telling you, we need to go to after school, before school, Saturday school, summer school, you know, that's ran by Black people with African-centered curriculum and principles. Also, Keisha just said church. I did. My mother passed away when I was 9. I was raised by aunties, great aunties, uncles, you know, so when people say, where you get that voice from? Y'all know where I'm strong. I grew up around strong men, but I grew up around strong women. But a lot of my problem is, too, I also grew up around Black men that had the last say, and they could smack a woman in the mouth if she got, you know, I was smacking her in the mouth. Who you talking to, right? I mean, they was going to have a good fight. You see what I'm saying? So I think that those of us who are part of even the Pan-African community, we don't want to talk gender. We don't want to talk about gender dynamics. We can be silent. So how did we get here? We got here by both Black people, the Black community, the Black family, but we also need to think about our relationships seriously with other Black girls and women, because that's probably who's going to save you. That's probably who's going to sustain you. And that's probably who's going to help carry you. I'm not saying take away the men folk. I just told y'all I got a man at home. That man been sticking around for 26 years. And I got a 23-year-old son, but I also got a Black girl, and I know she's going to experience life differently. And I don't think failure is a part of the conversation. I don't even know all the time if success has us in mind, because what's success? How are you defining that? Degrees, dollar signs, you know, your bank accounts, or is it how you feel and how you live and how you serve other people?
And for me, it goes back to, first and foremost, my grandmother. My granny was my everything. My mother treated my granny like a queen, and so we all had to respect her as the highest thing. I really thought she was just as high as God. And because she practiced the value of loving God, it wasn't too far off. I was raised in the church every Sunday, sang in the church, was the commentator in the church. I was edified in the church. So everything that I was good at, the church, put that microphone in that girl's hand. She commentating for Youth Sunday, sings solo. So church for me was a huge thing. I love school. I love learning, but school wasn't a safe place for me, right? It wasn't safe for me with my teachers. It wasn't safe for me with the policies, and it wasn't safe for me with my peers. But one place that I loved going was in the library, and I discovered Maya Angelou. And Dr. Maya Angelou's entire series, from Cage Bird Sing, all the way singing, getting married like Christmas, all of these things. She talked about everything you just talked about, Dr. Venus. She talked about navigating a world full of men folk as your family. What that protection looked like, but also what it looks like to be vulnerable and exploited by men. She talked about her mother, her grandmother. Like, these things, I saw a mirror for myself. And so that's why media to me is so important, ladies, is because I think when you can see representation for yourself, whether it's in a book or a movie or a film, when you can see Black women who are strong, Black women who give you an example. Claire Huxtable for me. Thursday nights, I grew up in the low end Bronzeville. So I saw greatness, but I also saw the lowest that we could be, right? But everywhere was edification and affirmation of my history. Whether it was the name of Robert Taylor, Ida B. Wells, whether it was the name of DuSable High School, whether it was Walter H. Dyer, Anthony Overton, Mary Church Terrell, I saw these names all around me. And me, who is that? I'm looking it up. So I got pride in my community, but I also got to navigate, as you said, crack pipes and all types of stuff, and fighting, getting my bag stolen, going to Burger King, and the kids from Robert Taylor Homes coming to snatch your bag if you can't make it home in time. So I had to do all of that. But Thursday nights, I turn on Channel 5, NBC 5, and the Cosby Show had me there with Denise and Vanessa and Claire Huxtable. And then Different World came on, and Whitley Gilbert and Kim Reese. So these were things that I knew I could attain and become. And I stayed in that library reading about history, as you all get every day. I had history moments every day because I wanted to know who are the dopest, baddest Black women. Even though I couldn't, my aunties were and my mother were homebodies, they worked in the community, but I just always felt a bigger calling. I felt a calling for my community bigger than my family. So I always was seeking that out in reading. Reading saved my life. Reading made me a better person. Reading is why you all get those history moments that y'all get tired of learning about every day, because I'm going to teach you, because I want you to reach for higher than yourself.
I would say Oprah.
Yes, girl.
We literally grew up with Oprah on TV in 1984. And I used to, when times get hard, I used to actually pretend like Oprah was interviewing me. I even wrote that in my dissertation too. Yeah, like a part of it. I had a conversation with Oprah. But yeah, Oprah definitely. And I do want to say too about Christianity. It's really interesting because many of us, probably the more we read, the more we know about history. We know about the complicated relationship between Africans and Christianity, especially the African slave trade and Christianity and colonization. But once Gandhi said, "I have no problem with your Christ, I have a problem with your Christians," right? He was really talking about white Christians. Let's be clear. I do think that religion and spirituality is really important to our resiliency, okay? Because it would be our family, it was the Christians who stepped up when people got addicted. It was the Christians who stepped up when somebody was, like dying of illness or cancer. When there was a funeral, they were the ones who would collected the money or brought clothes or provided people with housing. So I do think that that's important. And keep in mind, that's the one thing they're telling us that we also can't talk about in schools. So whatever they're telling us not to talk about, we should be flipping it on its head and actually doing the opposite. Okay.
We're going to round out because I think we're up against the clock. We're going to round out with resources. Dr. Venus, you got so many books that I want, not just for girls, but I want parents and educators need to have. And I'm going to put this out there because there's a situation that I know of personally where a young girl, she is 7 years old. For the last 2 years, she's been at a school where she's been experiencing intensive bullying, kicked in the face by her peers. One of the children who is bullying her is the daughter or granddaughter of the principal. The teachers, everybody is in on this, right? And I'm using this one example. We know that these are the situations that many of our girls are going into where teachers and systems are in place to go against them. What can we say to teachers, educators, to parents and advocates such as ourselves? A resource, you can name a book or whatever else, and a philosophy that they should hold to keep our Black girls safe this school year. And we'll end after that.
Wow, a philosophy, Black feminism. Again, they trying to ban it on nearly every state in this country, which is a reason to go figure out what that thing is, right? A book for all parents, teachers, after school providers, teaching Black girls. I wrote that book 15 years ago, second edition approximately 5 or 6 years ago. That book is it? So it connects the curriculum, the policy, and the practice. And the last thing I would say to you before I go, I'll give all of your girls a digital copy of the Boss Chick's Guide to Mindfulness Meditation, a workbook for Black women. I could give that to them. Yeah, and they could pull it up on their phone. They can meditate and everything.
So I think a philosophy that I've always subscribed to would be Garveyism. I think that this idea of assimilation was the worst thing that ever happened to us because it taught us that whatever we were doing, we needed to be a part of something that they were doing. And it taught us how to subscribe to the pain that was always and the suffering that was given to us and be okay with it. And so I think that, and so when I say Garveyism, if I talked about it in a modern context, it would be supporting the things that we are doing as Black women. And so, we don't have to assimilate to the sense of beauty. We don't have to buy products that is sold by people that that don't have our best health interests at heart, we can make a lot of these products, a lot of hair products and things like that. And so just tapping into our creativity, and start to support. When you see Black girls selling something, buy it. Because if we not buying it, they not. And so a book, of course, I would say for young girls, I think Whose Little Girl 2 is a great demonstration of how easy the recruitment into exploitation is. So Whose Little Girl 2 by Dr. Kisha Roberts Tab. You find it on my site, but it really walks you through 6 incidents of exploitation and how the relational exploitation of the doctor that is responsible for giving therapy to these girls, how that magnified their experiences, because we look at commercial sex trade as something different than relational sex trade. We've been conditioned to trade sex for things that of value, and so that's commercial sex trade at its best. And so just looking at how our upbringing makes us so vulnerable to exploitation.
That reminds me, there are some of our girls who are going to school hungry, so they exchanging sex for food. McDonald's, like, not just attention.
And it's not said like, have sex with me, I'm gonna go get you McDonald's, right? We need to make sure we connect it. It's you hungry? You want something to eat? Well, I'm gonna take you to get something to eat. Then you go into his house first, and then you getting something to eat. So it's not always. Now you feel like you gotta do something because you still ain't got the food yet. So I want us to be clear when we talking about these things, how it looks. But go ahead, your resource and your philosophy.
And what you just said, the survival sex, like that is huge. When I think one of the things that I didn't say earlier, what we do is we have Hood House, which is a transitional living residence for young ladies experiencing homelessness, and it came about during the height of the pandemic. You know how we was all still out here trying to act like the world was still the same. And I was talking to the girls and saying, hey, you better log in for school and keep up with your appointments. And the girl was like, lady, look, I slept in the park last night. We had girls who were already in unstable living situations. And then when COVID came, y'all know people was like, you ain't coming in here. Like, and so they lost a lot of their shelter. And so I had a lot of girls who was like sleeping on the red line train, sleeping in the park districts, but trying to get in there before they close. And they was like living with these bus drivers, for shelter, and for survival sex is what we call it. And so, yeah, it's a huge thing. I think this year, I want this to be the school year that we believe Black girls. Like, let's. I mean, damn, like our girls are depressed, they sad, they traumatized, and they don't have nobody to talk to, because a lot of the times us Black women, we get our degrees and we get all of these accolades and we forgot where the hell we came from, and some of the things that we had to go through, that we did go through. And that's so weird to me. Like, we could have went through some of the same. Like, I personally know some people, you was climbing out the window to go see such and such and all that kind of stuff, because I was trying to, and then when we found out the girls doing some of the same things, it's, we scolding them, we judging them, and just all this old foolishness. So I just want us to believe girls when they say that, Uncle so-and-so is looking at them in a way that they don't like, or that, that somebody touched them, even if somebody that you may respect, and have a positive relationship with. Like, that's what got to stop. Like, seriously, because
They made me feel a certain kind of way. We're thinking it's hyperbole when that's grooming. That's a type of grooming. You just bringing them in.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's advocate for our girls. Let's listen to them. And it don't have to be your girl. All these girls are our girls, So I want that to be. And then as far as a book, hood feminism, yeah, that's a good. I don't know if it's, yes, yeah, that's one that I like. So I recommend that one. But yeah, let's take care of each other. And like you guys were saying with yes, Garvey, yes. And all of that, but just like supporting each other. It's so few of us, and I was telling somebody, I said, y'all think like the Chicago street gangs is tough. Try to have a nonprofit up in this around here, or a business. Like, man, we have to treat each other better as Black women, because the girls are watching us and they're getting it from us. you know.
Partnership is real for me, and it's reciprocated. So that's why I have these women here, because it's been years. You and I've been rocking since the beginning of Twitter on them Twitter chats that I was hosting. Yes, 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 and it's real. I'm gonna leave with this resource for schools, Girls Like Me Project, all of our organizations or speaking, bringing us into your school. You cannot educate. Um, it's almost like reform. Like you have to have culturally responsive. If your curriculum doesn't have Garveyism or doesn't have Black feminism in it, then you need to get somebody up in there who does. Now I'm not against the etiquette classes and how to look and do and all that. That's fine and dandy. But if these girls cannot navigate the world as Black women and feel good about who they are, then we're failing them. So you need a Girls Like Me project. You need a partnership. Bring us in your school. Dr. Kisha Roberts Tab and her programs, Black Beauty Cutie, Girls in the Hood, Focus Fairies. I can keep going on and on and on. Bring us to your schools. Also, listen to Black girls. Let them lead your programs. Listen for their feedback. Pay them so that they don't have to be exploited. I can give so much more. Last resource is African American Policy Forum. Most of the things that we talked about up here today, they give statistics, research, studies, and they break down everything from critical race theory to feminism to push out to all of those things. That's a resource for me. So, and Dr. You on the board or something? You're doing something fancy with them.
I'm the Black Girls Research Initiatives Coordinator at the African American Policy Forum, so I'll be teaching the girls the research and policy.
Look at this. She was already doing some magnificent things. So that's been the last 2 or 3 years, right? That you did that. Yeah. Because she was already dope. I didn't even know that. So now we definitely need to be talking more. But yeah, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank y'all for joining us here. We are at Discover Shine Bright Center in the heart of Chatham for their Back to School Bash 2023. We're so grateful to be here. And it is time for us to wrap up. Catch Girls Like Me Project, GLMPI Talks online YouTube channel. And we have some amazing events coming up. September 10th is our GLMPI Chicago Crowned event, which will also be here. That is our fundraiser and our screening of our film that we did while we went to New Orleans, Essence Fest, and had a wonderful time with the Queens of the Nations. Am I saying it right? Queens of the Nation. Black Masking Queens of the Nation. They will be here in Chicago with us. Lastly, we have a garden that we tend to every week, 49th and Prairie. You can go and get food right now. You can go and pick whatever you want. It is a community garden. We have girls therapy. They just told us they don't want to do group therapy. They don't want to be in front of folks. So we're doing one-on-one for 20 girls. We're giving free therapy for 20 girls. We also have mother-daughter healing circles every Saturday. That'll be starting back up in November. We got a lot going on, y'all. And we're done. Clap it up. Thank y'all so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Kisha Roberts Tab. Thank you so much, Dr. Venus Evans Winters. Thank you so much, Chaz. What is your last name? Smith.
Smith.
Smith of Girls in the Hood. Thank y'all so much.